under the neoplastic, we can have slated lesions and adenoma. So starting with gastric polyp. Gastric polyp is a polyp that projects above gastric mucosa. It is found incidentally during upper GI endoscopy. It is divided into three types: funding gland polyp, hyperplastic polyp, and adenoma. Funding gland polyp is a benign polyp which is found in fundus and body. It occurs due to overuse of proton pump inhibitor, and microscopically it shows cystically dilated glands with inflammatory material and funding gland infiltration. It is usually benign, but sometimes if it is resistant to the staph, it can display dysplasia. Hyperplastic polyp occurs due to injury of mucosa. It most commonly occurs in antrum, and adenomatous is a true neoplastic polyp which displays dysplasia and has a high malignant potential. Gastric cancer is the real risk. Moving into small intestinal polyp. Small intestinal polyp is very less common, but it can cause bleeding, obstruction, intussusception, and sometimes malignancy. It can be divided into three types. First is non-neoplastic, inflammatory fibroid polyp, then hematomatous lesion, and then neoplastic. Under non-neoplastic, inflammatory fibroid polyp is very common, which is benign mesenchymal polyp. But it forms a polypoidal mass, which risk intussusception. Under hematomatous lesion, we have Peutz-Jeghers syndrome, which is the most common and most important type of lesion. It occurs mostly in ileum and jejunum. Occurs due to STK11 mutation, and it has characteristic feature of arborizing pattern, smooth muscle pattern, covered by epithelium, and it is called Christmas tree appearance. Clinically, it shows a hyperpigmentation around oral cavity and other mucocutaneous areas. Intussusception and obstruction are complications here. Lastly, we have neoplastic adenoma, which displays dysplasia again, and it occurs most commonly in duodenum. That's why duodenal cancer and perianal cancer is very common. Moving on to most important topic, which is colorectal polyp. It can be broadly classified into non-neoplastic, under which inflammatory and hematomatous lesions found. Then precursor lesion, under which serrated lesion and conventional adenoma comes. And then malignant polyp, which is actually polyp containing invasive adenoplasty. Starting with inflammation. Inflammatory polyp occurs due to injury of mucosa, inflammation, which causes dysfunction and inflammation, which leads to fibromuscular hypertension. Which activates CIFT pathway, which leads to DNA methylation of MLH1 gene, which causes microsatellite instability, causing dysplasia and then cancer. And then we have a traditional serrated adenoma. This is also serrated in whole length, and which is less common and occurs in distal bone. Three things are very important here. First of all, serrations in full length, villus architecture, and dysplasia. Very high risk of cancer present here. And lastly, in the precursor region, we have conventional adenoma, which is the actual adenoma. This is a neoplastic proliferation of colorectal epithelium, and it can be divided according to two things: architecture, in which we have tubular, tubulovillus, and villus architecture. Tubular architecture is basically round tubular glands. Villus architecture is broad finger-like projection, and tubulovillus is mixed, which has 25 to 75% of villus architecture. All of them can have villus, but it has tubular has less than 25%, and this has more than 75%. Most dangerous and most malignant is the villus architecture. Then, according to dysplasia, we have a low-grade dysplasia and high-grade dysplasia. In low-grade, we can see nuclear elongation, stratification, and hyperplasia, but the architecture remains normal. But in high-grade dysplasia, we have loss of architecture showing tribriform or other complex architecture, loss of polarity, and ATP. There is a term called advanced neoplasia, and edema can be classified into advanced neoplasia if there are 3 points, that is increase in size more than 10 mm, villus architecture, and high-grade dysplasia. Now, how does an adenoma convert into a carcinoma? There is a stepwise sequence for that, known as adenoma carcinoma sequence, in which a normal mucosa undergoes APC mutation, which activates W20 pathway and which increases proliferation. Now, this APD mutation has 2 things. First is the genetic germline mutation at chromosome 5, and then somatic mutation, which leads to early adenoma. Then we have KRAS mutation, which promotes further growth into intermediate adenoma. Then we have SMAD2 and 4 loss of function mutation, which converts into late adenoma. And finally, DP53 loss of function mutation, which converts into carcinoma. Apart from these central pathways, we have some adenoma called FAP, and HSP. FAP is the familial adenomatous polyposis, which occurs due to APC degeneration, and it shows multiple adenomatous polyps, 100, and very high risk of colorectal cancer. FAP also has another diagnosis called attenuated FAP, which is and shows less polyp. MAP is MUT by H associated polyp, which also has high risk of cancer. This is hormone resistant, high risk of cancer, and it occurs due to base excision. Moving on to HMPCC or hereditary non-polyposis colorectal carcinoma, also known as Lynch disease. This is actually non-polyposis, so very less polyp here, but it occurs due to mismatch which leads to microsatellite instability, causing high risk of cancer. Then we lastly have the lignant polyp, which is actually a polyp which contains lastly, I would like to conclude this topic by discussing the approach. Whenever we receive a colorectal polyp, first of all, we have to check for its architecture, whether it is segregated or not. If it is, then we should check for base. If base is normal, then it must be hyperplastic polyp. If not, it is sessile segregation. If it has adenomatous architecture, that is tubular villus or tubular villus, then we should check for second thing, that is dysphagia. Low grade or high grade. If it is high grade, then we should third thing, that is aneurysm. If not present, then it is adenoma. And if it is present, then it is malignant polyp. Then we should check for depth, grading, and
Yes, sir.
सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट बात ये है मुझे को बहुत बार कहा गया है तुमने अपना ज़्यादा समय कहाँ बिताया किसको देखने में तुमने अपना 90% टाइम बहुत को देखने में बिताया अब 10% ही तुमने इधर जो तुम्हारे ऑडियंस बैठे हुए हैं उनको तुम देखने में क्या हुआ कि ऑडियंस वाला कि तुम अच्छा बोल रहे थे लेकिन तुम हमको देखोगे कि वो प्रशांत से बात कर रहे थे उन से तुम देखते हो तो क्या है ठीक है ना तो इस पर ध्यान रखना है कि ज़्यादा समय उस पर नहीं देना उस पर देना है टाइम लेकिन ज़्यादा टाइम तुमको ऑडियंस को फेस करना है बीच बीच में कुछ लिखना है ठीक है तुम्हारे पॉइंट को मजबूत करना है लेकिन ये नहीं कि तुम बॉडी की तरफ अपना सारा समय बिताया ऐसा नहीं करना ठीक है और बाकी यस पर्सनली आई एम हैप्पी by your presentation and the reason for happiness is within the plans and the reason for happiness is obviously not the content for me a 10-minute presentation कंटेंट का कोई क्या कंटेंट का ज़्यादा रोल होता है 10 मिनट की प्रेजेंटेशन जितना भी करेंगे सारा कंटेंट बताएंगे obviously content is not the reason. So the reason for my happiness is your
Confidence.
controlled speed today. Your speed was controlled and you were audible to all and words were clear. Right? So we all are happy today by your presentation. So you have improved a lot from your previous presentations. And I hope in next presentation you will mind the point today, whatever I pointed. बहुत अच्छा है, बहुत अच्छा है. We बिल्कुल today first time we felt that Ruchika is teaching all of us. Really. अच्छा, बहुत अच्छा करना, बहुत अच्छा करना. और बार-बार जो तुमको कहा जा रहा था, तुमने उस पर काम किया, तुमने अपने स्पीड को कंट्रोल, ये बहुत अच्छी बात. क्योंकि तुम्हारा जो पढ़ने का प्रेजेंटेशन होता था उसमें लगता था स्पीकर को जैसे यहाँ से फिर तुरंत पॉइंट लेना है फिर तुरंत निकलना नहीं है तो तुम उसको कंट्रोल किए बहुत अच्छा है अपनी गलतियों से ही लोग सीखते हैं है ना बाकी सब कुछ बहुत अच्छा है और तुमको फोकस करना है टुवर्ड्स ऑडियंस इस चीज़ को ध्यान रखना उधर भी देखना है लेकिन अगर उधर 20% टाइम दो तो 70% टाइम उधर और उतना ज़्यादा लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है क्लास में नहीं हो रहा है 15 मिनट्स का टीचिंग नहीं तुम कुछ पॉइंट्स लिख सकते जो तुमको लगता हो कि हाँ बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है या तुम दो चीज़ लिख सकते हो दो चीज़ तुमको लगता हो कि हमें भूल नहीं बोलते हो तो उसको तुम साइड में अपना बात कर सकते हो एक बार ताली बजाओ रुचिका मीना सीमा मीना ना सैटरडे
सेमिनार है बोलिए ना
टॉपिक इज
Seminar.
microbial carcinogenesis, and this will be your first seminar, right? All the best. Good be clear. अच्छे से तैयारी करो।